Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. Welcome to the Depression Recovery Channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. Today is Flashback Friday, a feature in which I republish one of my earlier videos you might not have seen that contains really important coping strategies that will help you attain a better mood. Now here's today's video. The topic for this week is forgive yourself for your mistakes. And I'd like to start with a personal story. Last week, actually, it was pretty recently, I decided to get my wife a birthday present and to get her a raincoat, rain jacket that was waterproof and could breathe because she walks nearly every day. And here we are in Oregon and we're starting the rainy season. So I went down to the outdoor store, and although I knew that she wore a small jacket, I bought a medium because I figured, well, she's going to wear a lot of layers underneath and we want to get the larger size. But when I came home and she tried it on, it was of course too big for her. So I was going to have to basically take this back and exchange it for a small, but there was one problem. I lost the receipt on the way home. Typical of my absent-minded nature. For the next 24 hours, I was very upset with myself for having lost the receipt. I would say to myself over and over again, you fool, how could you have done that? Why are you so absent-minded? And finally, Joan, who was witnessing this, said to me, hey, cut yourself some slack. Nobody gets it right all of the time. This may seem like a fairly trivial story, but it illustrates an important point about depression recovery. We who suffer from depression can be very hard on ourselves. With our self-esteem in the pits, we can be self-critical and self-judgmental. And when we mistake or make a mistake or a misstep, our inner critic can go wild. So, what's the answer to this? Well, the answer to this is that we who are depressed or have depression must learn to forgive ourselves for our mistakes. And there are three reasons for this. The first is, as we mentioned earlier, it's only human to make mistakes. That's why Alexander Pope said, to err is human, to forgive divine. The second is we can learn through our mistakes. Everybody talks about getting wisdom through experience, but what is experience? It's the sum total of our mistakes. So when we make mistakes and we learn from them, we become wise. And thirdly, sometimes what seems to be a mistake can bring an unexpected benefit or blessing. And so I'd like to illustrate this with another story from my own life. In the beginning of 1982, many years ago, I suffered the end of a relationship, or went through the end of a relationship, which was, of course, very painful. What ending isn't? And as you might guess, I got very depressed. Nevertheless, I was able to take my recently earned MA in counseling and start a modest counseling practice. A short time afterwards, Peter and Eileen Caddy, the founders of the Findhorn community in Scotland, came to Eugene to give a presentation about life in their community. Now, to those of you who don't know, Findhorn was a very, very famous New Age community back in the 70s and 80s, and a lot of people, and myself, including myself, were really interested in going to it. So I heard their presentation, I saw their slideshow, I got completely inspired, and suddenly I made the impulsive decision to abandon my practice and buy a plane ticket for London, England, and go to Scotland to visit this community and hopefully live in it. Now, one of the reasons I went to Findhorn is because I thought it would be a good place to start a new book, a book of inspirational affirmations and meditations that I was thinking of writing. Unfortunately, when I got to Findhorn, something happened I didn't anticipate. My depression actually got worse. And so I started the book, got a modest start on the book, but I couldn't finish it or go much further. And it was explained to me that when one goes into a really positive environment, the contrast between that positivity and your own negative state illuminates the negative state and makes it more profoundly and intensely felt. So within 3 months of arriving at Findhorn, I felt so bad, I decided to go back to America. And when I arrived back in Eugene, Oregon, where I was living, the depression continued to get worse. My mood plummeted. It got so bad that I was forced to go back to the East Coast to live with my parents, who took care of me for 9 months. And during that time, I was hospitalized not once, but twice. Now, as you can imagine, during the 9 months of my depressive episode when I was living back east and going in and out of the hospital, I directed a lot of anger towards myself. I said, "You bozo, what did you do? What were you thinking? Why did you leave your successful private practice? It could have been really flourishing by now. Instead, you went off, you traipsed off to Europe in search of this impossible dream. Your mother was right. You really do live in a dream world." It took me a long time to let go of this regret, 5 years in fact. And then on Christmas Day 1987, I was at a service and suddenly I got the inspiration to revisit this book, Words That Heal. And the inspiration was so strong that I was able to finish the book in 90 days, and I sold the rights to Banda Books, which published it and published a lot of copies. Over the next couple of years, tens of thousands of people were touched by this book, and it was published in 8 languages. And even though it's been 30 years since the book has been published, I still continue to get letters thanking me for the writing of this book and telling me how this book has touched people's lives. So maybe going to Findhorn wasn't such a bad decision after all, because the inspiration that I had in Eugene was continued at Findhorn, and I believe that seeds were planted that came to fruition 5 years later. So this so-called wrong decision, on the one hand, was a right decision because things came from it that never would have happened had I stayed in Eugene. So, I want to conclude by saying it's important for us to learn how to forgive ourselves for mistakes, and there are 3 reasons for this. I'll say them again. First is that we're only human. It's natural that we make mistakes. That's part of what being human is. Secondly, we can learn from our mistakes and we can grow wiser. And thirdly, sometimes our mistakes can have unexpected benefits which we could not have foreseen. So let's try to be gentle on ourselves. Let's try to be kind with ourselves and realizing that, as Billy Joel said, we're only human. This has been Douglas Bloch. I hope you found the information on this Flashback Friday video helpful. If so, please give it a like, as likes draw more and more people to this channel and hopefully some more subscribers. You can also leave your comments in the comments section or email me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. If you do want to subscribe to this channel, click on my photo in the closing credits. You'll be taken to my subscribe page. And if you click on the bell to the right, you'll be notified every time I do a new video or live chat. And if you want to contribute to this channel and become a patron, simply click on the Patreon image. You'll be taken to my crowdfunding site. And until next video, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you so much.